You can only go as far as who you are. I've said this before. You can only create and innovate out of who you are. If you want to create new things, if you want to innovate, if you want to create with your gifts in a way that helps you to get paid to be you, then you've got to become the type of person who does those things. And for that, you need a reframe. You need a new story. You need to get restoried. Because the story you're living in right now, the one you don't even know about because it's got invisible walls, that's what's holding you back. But you can break free. Let's get into why and how.
Hey, Creating Maven. I'm Joy Spencer, your Reframe specialist, with one important message. Your real work, it's not your job or your career. Your real work is what you create. And what you create is what sets you apart and makes you incomparable. It's your legacy. I'm here to show you a whole new way of working so you can create with your gifts, make a unique contribution, and finally get paid to be yourself. This is Reframe to Create.
I recently had my mind blown completely wide open. You see, there's this thing that I do. When I'm kicking off a session with leaders, I like to get the room warmed up with a little friendly competition. I'll jump in and I'll say, okay, y'all, Star Wars or Star Trek? And no, you can't say both. And then I watch the room descend into chaos as I boo and chastise the Star Wars fans for choosing wrong. But don't feel sorry for them. As you know, Star Wars fans are fierce and back down for nobody. You might be one yourself, so you know. So by this point, the room is usually amped up and sometimes downright creative in their passive aggression. Once, after facilitating an all-day session, I came back the next day to find a Yoda sticker on my seat. And when I lifted it up and demanded, "Who did this?" there were crickets and lots of devilish smiles. The Star Wars fans remain undefeated. So one day after I'd set off the usual firestorm about Star Wars versus Star Trek, Will, who is one of my colleagues, was teasing me. And he's like, Joy, the only reason why you like Star Trek over Star Wars is because it's set in the future and Star Wars is set in the past. And my head just about exploded. What did you just say? You don't like Star Wars because it's set in the past. What do you mean Star Wars is set in the past? And this is how my entire world fell apart. Now I know what you're thinking. Joy, it literally says at the start of every movie, a long time ago in a galaxy far away. And that's exactly what Will said to me, speaking very slowly so my mind could compute. But you have to understand, the very first time that I saw Star Wars, I was a kid. And when I saw it, I already had this idea lodged in my brain that spaceships and space travel were a thing of our imagined future. Period. Spaceships, future. The end. And that was it. All other information that came into my brain after that cycled through that filter, cycled through that frame. And anything that didn't conform to that just bounced off my head and has been bouncing off my head for literally decades, y'all. Because to me, the long time ago was their long time ago from a way, 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 way distant future. That's so far in the future that even their past is still future to us. Surely the long, long ago was not in reference to our timeline. And that's what I've always believed. That is, until that afternoon when Will said out loud what you've known this entire time. But I kid you not. I've been reading that long ago and disbelieving it every single time. And I'm still so confused, y'all, about how I did that. The point of my sharing this is that it's made me question so many other things and wonder Where else in my life am I unconsciously rejecting information because it does not fit into the frame? Where else am I locked in a frame, in a story that I can't see that I'm in because it's got invisible walls? And what possibilities are closed off to me because of that? For Star Wars versus Star Trek, the stakes are pretty low. But I can imagine for so many other things in life, this type of thing can have very real and serious consequences. And I wonder if you've ever experienced something like this. A realization that you've been living in a frame that's not true, or that's extremely limiting when it doesn't have to be. And if you haven't had this experience of coming out of a frame, could it be that you're in one right now? I'm all about reframing because I know a frame can lock you in without you knowing it. We all look at life through the lens of different frames of understanding, and those frames can be as limiting as they can be liberating. What I learned from my Star Wars revelation wasn't just that I've been a prisoner of wrong thinking for decades. I learned how critical other people are to getting you out. If Will hadn't said what he said the way he said it, I would still believe to this very day that Star Wars is set in the future. And this is why I need reframes and why you need reframes. We all need reframes. And you don't just need a reframe, you need someone else to help you get a reframe. Because at any given point in time, you're living in a story with invisible walls, and you need help. In episode 31, You Can Only Go As Far As Who You Are, I talked about 3 kinds of stories: your anchor stories, your aspirational stories, and your limiting stories. And I want to talk about your limiting stories and how dangerous they can be for your next. So imagine it. I mean, can you see it? A world where you are creating and innovating with your gifts and offering what you create in service to your world and getting paid for it. I mean, this is the essence of getting paid to be you. And what if it's not just you who's able to do this, but teams, organizations, and even countries able to harness the power of their strengths and gifts to create the wonderful new and innovative things we need to make our world just a little bit better to live in. But it seems like we're a long way from that, doesn't it? Because of a frame that we're living in. The frame that believes that this is a pipe dream. You might think this is impossible for you and merely wishful thinking. You might think that the mark of an adult is to not have this type of life. After all, isn't adulting pain, suffering, and disappointment with no hope of anything better in sight? You think that creating with your gifts is a side project that can never really take on any kind of meaningful space in your life. I get it. That's the frame many of us are living in when it comes to what we create, which is what I believe is our real work, because of the prevailing wisdom and because that's what it says. But it doesn't have to be this way for you. There's a better way. I believe this so strongly. That's why I created Reframe to Create. I believe this so strongly because I've experienced it myself and watched many others do and experience the same. This is not a pipe dream. This is real. And the only thing that's holding you back right now is a story you're telling yourself of just how impossible it is for you. The only thing holding you back is the frame that you're in. That's why you need a reframe. And I'm here to give it to you. I'm about to do you the same favor Will did to me by busting up my Star Wars parade. And here it is. It is possible. There are people right now getting paid to be themselves because they are getting paid for the unique things and experiences they create. They're not twisting themselves into pretzels to fulfill job descriptions that have nothing to do with their unique contributions and gifts. They are operating at the center of their zones of genius and loving it, and they are doing it even in their jobs. And this can be you. But before you can create this way, you need this reframe. You've got to reframe to create. And these are the reframes you need in order to create and innovate. 1, recognize that you need to get restoried. That is, you yourself need help to analyze the stories you're living in and analyze and understand which ones are holding you back and get restoried so that you can move forward. There's no way around this. You are your greatest asset and your greatest hindrance. And the crazy thing is you don't even know the details of how you're holding you back so that you can become your cheerleader and not the one that's pulling you back. You can't do this on your own. And I'll share more in the end about how I can help you to do this, how I can help you to get restoried. 2, you need a reframe on work. If you've been listening to Reframe to Create for any amount of time, I hope you've gotten this reframe by now. But if not, today is your day. You need a reframe about work that shifts you from being job-focused to becoming mission-minded. You need to stop thinking about your work as your job or your career and come to an understanding of your work as the things and experiences that you create. You can't be nose down in your current job and then hop to another job and be nose down in that job as well. You have to lift your head up and get a mission-minded view of what you are doing when it comes to work. And that mission is not to go be productive from job to job. It's to know what it is that you uniquely create in life and be intentional about being of service with what you create to those who you are here to serve. You have to stop defining your work based on your current job or career. You have to stop merging your identity with your current role or organization. Your eyes have got to be on the prize, what you create and who you serve with what you create. The others are temporary containers. This means you can become flexible about where you serve, all while never losing sight of your mission. In this reframe, when you are employed, you know your mission. When you are unemployed, you know your mission. Sometimes your mission completely aligns with your job, which is great. Other times it does not, which is still great because you know how to stay on mission outside of your job. Sometimes that will take on the form of a side hustle or a side business so you can stay on mission. Other times it will be you serving on a board or being a volunteer of some sort or a myriad of lots of other things. Whatever it takes to stay on mission, being on mission will never be dependent on your job role again. 3, you need to know that creating is your act of service. I know a lot of people who shy away from this work of figuring out what they uniquely create because they think it's a vanity project. They assume the only way they can be of service is to show up like Imani in Coming to America, barking like a dog and hopping on one leg saying, "Whatever you like." But this is not what true service means. You have gifts, and it is your responsibility to discover what those gifts are, create with those gifts, and offer what you create in service. Now it can be paid service or free service, that's up to you, but the assignment is the same. Creating with your gifts is an act of service to those who you are here to serve with what you create. And it's a service to take seriously. It's not something to shirk, ignore, or shove to the side because it's hard to figure it out, or you may need to invest time and money in yourself to bring it to life. That's not an excuse. And if it's an excuse you've been making, I hope today is the last day you do. Creating is important work, and you won't do it until you see yourself as someone who not only creates as an act of service and as part of your real work, but see yourself as someone who takes it as a serious responsibility. How you see yourself sets up everything. You've got to reframe to create. And your reframe starts with you getting restoried. It starts by learning the stories that are anchoring and supporting you, which ones are inspiring you and pulling you forward, and which ones are holding you back. And then you need the tools to do something with it and tell your new story and help others to tell the story as well. You need to create with your gifts, own what you create, and tell powerful stories about what you create. Create, own, storytell. And I'm more than willing to be your reframe specialist to help you do this. Visit reframetocreate.com/restoried to learn how we can work on this together. Now is the time, my creating maven. Now is the time to get restoried so that you can reframe to create. See you soon, Creating Maven. Until then, remember to always ask yourself, what will I create?